Hello and welcome everyone for another video. I've got immediately another 5-0 for you at the ready. Honestly, Infect has been feeling pretty great for me recently. After my great finishes in Legacy, I figured it would be time to go back to playing some Modern. And well, I can tell you that for the next 2 weeks, my content will probably be Modern, because in case you haven't heard, Invigorate is now bugged on Magic Online, which means you can no longer target your opponent to gain life. So that means Infect in Legacy is basically unplayable online for the next 2 weeks. So focus will be Modern, for sure. So what I've did with this list is, yeah, spoiler alert, I went 5-0 with it. First thing that comes to mind is I'm not playing Rotpriest. And I wanted to tell you about why I've decided to go back to that build. And well, going 5-0 is nice, so it's clear that it was a very, very good decision. For people who have watched my first video on my channel, I started out with a 5-0 with Simic Infect. And it is a similar build to that, where I just updated some small stuff to adjust to the meta. Now, before we go into that, I do want to point out that thank you all for massively watching my videos. I've now got over 5,000 hours of views on my videos, which is insane. However, I really want to hit that 1,000 subscriber point, because if we reach that, I can finally get my channel monetized and I could make much more videos. So if you enjoy this content and haven't done so, please smash that subscription button. It is free for you, would help me out massively, and that would mean that I can make more content for you. So everyone benefits, basically. So don't forget about that. But everyone, thanks for the massive support that I've been getting. All right, that's enough for that. Let's just jump into the list, shall we? So as I said before, people haven't seen my first video, you can watch it if you want, but otherwise I'm going to go over my decisions. First thing that comes to mind, that is pretty obvious, is I'm playing 8 nobles here. I'm playing also 4 ignobles and 4 nobles. So 4 nobles is pretty standard, but why would you want to play ignoble hierarch in this build specifically? Because you're never going to use the black and the red, right? So why would you want ignoble? The main idea that I have been feeling recently when you're playing Infect is that in Modern specifically, the deck is currently feeling the worst it has been in quite a long while, if I'm being honest. And I think the main reason for this is that there's just so much removal flying around that doesn't matter what kind of deck you're playing, if you're playing aggro, combo, or something else, it's just all-out removal spells. And especially the evoke creatures like Fury and Solitude specifically, they are so tough for us to deal with. And that's when I figured out that, you know what's the real problem right now when you're playing Infect? It's just keeping your Infector alive. And my reason for that is that if you play a turn 1 threat, be it Noble, be it Elf, they just always kill it. And then if the opponent kills your turn 1 play, your Noble, that means it's difficult to keep the other threats alive. For instance, you need to tap out to play Blood Agent. Or if you're playing Elf, you also need another protection spell to keep it alive, potentially. And then if they have a blocker, Elf is worthless. So it really shows you that I analyzed the play patterns, and currently it feels to me like the main issue that Infect has is being able to untap when you're with your Infect threat. And that's the reason why I love the 8 Noble build, specifically because if you're able to untap with a Noble or Ignoble, you always have mana to protect your creatures. You will have 3 mana available if you want to cast Blooded Agents, so you can protect it with a defensive spell. And if you're playing if you're playing Glistener Elf, you will have 2 green mana to protect it, or you can follow it with an Inkmoth Nexus, and a turn afterwards you will have 1 mana to animate, and you will have 2 green mana potentially up to fight in combat or do some crazy stuff. So the Ignoble really is working together in the game plan of this list, which is keep your Infectors alive. That is the main thing. Let me just put it out right there for people who still think that this is a thing. Infect is no longer a turn 2 kill deck. Forget about it. It's just, those days are gone. That's before Modern Horizons 2. That's just not going to happen. I mean, it's not true. Sure, you can sometimes beat Tron on turn 2 because they have no interaction. Yes, sure. But the meta in general, that's just no longer what we are able to do with our deck. And it shows in my list. Let me go over the pump spells that I have right here. First off, I'm not playing Mutagenic Growths. So why not? Very easy. It gives your creatures +2/+2, which is not a whole lot. I want my pump spells to be excellent. And if they give me +2/+2, they need to give me protection. Just a generic +2/+2, not good enough in my opinion. We need our stuff to be better than that. And if you watch these pump spells, almost every single one gives my creature protections, because again, what's the most important thing right now? we want to be able to untap with our threat. Usually if you have one pump spell, if you can use one pump spell, 1 time +4/+4 on your threat, if you have 8 noble effects, you will get there. You don't need more. One pump spell is usually good enough. How many times have you died with a lot of pump spells in your hand, not being able to cast them? That's not what we want. So what I'm doing is 4 Blossoming, 4 Vines, 4 Snakeskin. All of these, Snakeskin Veil, Vines of Vastwood, and Blossoming Defense, all of these protect your creatures. This goes alongside the 4 Spell Pierce suite right here. Why? Well, because a lot of things right now get hit by Spell Pierce. Specifically, Wrenn 6, very, very, very difficult for us to deal with. We need to stop that from resolving if we can, because it just kills everything forever. And also, like, you have a lot of other stuff you can hit with it. If a combo deck goes off, especially game 1, they usually just go for it whenever they can. You can Spell Pierce that. Teferi, you can Spell Pierce that. I can go on, but you get the idea, right? So the only pump spells that I'm playing right now that do not protect my creatures are Scale-Ups, because Scale-Up is just the best pump spell there is. It makes a 6/4. However, you can see that I'm only playing 2. Again, why? Because having Scale-Up in multiples is very, very bad. I could see myself maybe playing 3 if you want that, but I'm happy with 2. But again, you can play 3 if you want. So very bad in multiples, and being a sorcery is very important indeed. We want to keep our creatures alive. Scale-Up does not keep our creatures alive, so that's very unfortunate. And then I'm playing Might of the Close-Up. That's just a staple in Infect. You play that. And then if I'm playing Elf, the main thing right now is that creatures are so good and so cheap that your opponents will always have the option to block your creatures or kill them with removal spells. And that's why in this list specifically, you can see that I'm playing triple Distortion Strike. Distortion Strike, a very, very good spell, because opponents usually feel very safe when they can keep back 1 or sometimes 2 blockers, and very often they are safe. However, if you're playing 3 Distortion Strikes, that's really, really good. Let's go over why I'm deciding to not play Venerated Rotpriest, because my last build that I played, I was playing a very specific Rotpriest build, and that's actually the reason why I'm not playing it. I think Rotpriest, while being very good in Infect, requires a very dedicated build, and by that I mean that you need to be able to, if you have a pump spell, you need to abuse the target ability as much as possible. Remember that video when I had 2 Spellskites and a Rotpriest and I just won on the spot because I bounced them 10 times? That's what I mean by that. I think if you want to play Rotpriest, which is good, I think you need to play at least 2 Spellskites, preferably more. That's how I feel, because the Rotpriest, you know, while being very good, if you don't adjust your deck to make the best value out of this card, very often it just doesn't do anything. So you need to play a dedicated build, which is what my previous one was, and that's my opinion. In this list, I wanted to go more all in on protect my creatures, and that's why I decided not to play Rotpriest, because that's just the ignorables. They take the slot of Rotpriests. You can't play too many threats. You need to have a certain amount of pump spells. Then let's go to the sideboard. Currently, in the current meta, if you're asking me, if you're playing blue-green and you're not playing Shaper Sanctuary, even in the main you can play them, you're doing something wrong, honestly. As I said, removal spells are everywhere, and this card is just nuts. If they use removal spells and you get to draw cards whenever they do that, you are going to win the game. You're just going to grind them out heavily. Shaper Sanctuary, I've gone up to 4. My previous list, the first one on my channel, played 3 when I 5-0'd with the list. And this one, you're going to see it in the games, why it's that good. It's really just insane. The rest is pretty standard, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Plus the Storms, very good against combo decks. Force of Vigor, I mean, that's straightforward. Destroy artifacts and enchantments. Blood Moons, what have you. Endurances, excellent card against pretty much every single graveyard-based deck. And very good against, well, where you want to have creatures. And then I'm playing 2 Kitchen Finks. Kitchen Finks is okay. It hasn't been that impressive anymore. You can probably swap this for something else. I've been thinking about what I want to change this with. However, the live gain is just so nice, and especially a combination of Kitchen Finks and Snakeskin Veil is just so nice. So I like them. They're not excellent or anything, but they're still pretty good. Okay, so I went 5-0 on the first try when I picked this one up, so I hadn't recorded them live because I wasn't expecting to go 5-0. So I will just show you my games. Let's jump in. As usual, I do recommend trying to pause at a certain point and make decisions alongside me if you want to really improve with Infect, because not that I know everything, but I do have a general notion of the deck, I guess. 30 in hand's pretty fine. 2 lands, you have Inkmoth Nexus, opponents start with a Rawgreen Triome, and this is already a point that is a bit of interest. So, I'm pretty sure that most people here, they would just slam down Elf immediately. And I'm not going to lie, that's an option that you can do, but I decided not to. You know why? Very easy, because we want to keep our threats alive. This just Ren and 6, there you go. It's all about Ren and 6. Especially when you see Rawgreen Triome, it just screams to me that they have that card in hand, and it's so difficult to deal with. You want to be able to protect your creature the best way you can. And this is what I mean, right? So they have Ren and 6, and they just try to ping Glistener Elf straight away. I just protect it. I could have played 2 elves, but the outcome would have been the same. And I really wanted to just go for the... so I draw Might of Velcrosa here, which is excellent. But if I didn't have the Might, I could have also just scale up, slammed in, and used Vines, which is what I would have done. And this is just an option that would have not have happened if I would have played the Elf on turn 1. So keep that in mind. If you can play around Ren and 6, you have to play around it. And I think this was the perfect start for the game, because I'm pretty sure that most people would just slam down Elf and see where it would have led. But again, you want to be able to untap with your creatures. As I said, if you're able to untap with your creatures, it's pretty irrelevant what else you have in your hand. You're going to win. Usually one pump spell is good enough. And it showed, right? I won the game with extra pump spells in my hand. So keep your threats alive. That's goal number 1. And then we can go from there. Okay, so now we know what we're up against in game 2. And here we go. So you can see that I brought in the Shaper's Sanctuary. Oh yeah, I should note what I did for sideboarding. So the way the game played out, it can still be a lot, you know. Turn 2 Ren and 6 is not something that's only played in 1 or 2 decks. It's pretty standard in a lot of decks. But I did know that I definitely wanted to have Shaper Sanctuary. So I think that, if I remember correctly, that's the only card I brought in, because it's just good every single game. Now, look at this opening hand. I'm pausing here deliberately. Tell me how you would play. Several options that you can do. Slam down the Elf. I just discussed why I don't like that. You can also start out with Shaper's Sanctuary. I think that's what most people would do. However, as I said before, we want to say, screw you, Ren and 6. So what I did is I just passed through the turn, because I was expecting them to play the stupid Ren and 6 on turn 2. And guess what happened? So I fetch, I Spell Pierce it, and I win the game from there. That's just it. And this is what I mean. Really try and find when you have to play certain spells and try to go from there. And so options here again. You can play Elf and Shapers. And I did do it like this in this very specific spot. But I want to note that I only played like this because I drew the Bladder Agent. If I hadn't drawn the Bladder Agent, I probably would have just played the Elf and passed through the turn and have Vines to try and untap with it. Because if I play Shapers and Elf, and they destroy Elf, and I don't draw a threat, I'm going to feel pretty silly. So here, they bounce the Elf, but I draw a card, and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much what I want. If they gonna try and infinitely remove all of my stuff, I am fine with that. Now, they do have the Teferi, so I can't really respond anyway, so I don't need to keep up on the mana. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to play my double threats, and I'm pretty happy with whatever they do. If they kill both of them, fine. I've drawn 2 cards now, and they will run out of the gas sooner or later, and then I have a lot of stuff to do. So now I actually see the Valakut, which is the first time that I saw it, and the first time that I knew what I was up against. I decide to, and this is an interesting one as well, right? So I decide to divide the damage here. I might Bladder Agent, and then I might a Glistener Elf. The reason for that is what I want to do is I definitely want to kill Teferi. I could have Vines the Bladder Agent, but I don't think I wanted to do that in this very specific spot. Why? Well, I still had lethal in my hand, so I don't need to win right now. I can win next game if I need to. And I think it's better for me to actually get rid of Teferi or the Dryad and prevent myself from dying next turn, because again, I have lethal anyway, so I need to do it in that certain way. What I do here is I actually start with the Snakeskin Veil. It resolves, and then I'm gonna Vines, because I figure that, you know what, I can still get blown out of the game when they play like certain cards. And here we have the Supreme Verdict from the Bring to Light. That really does suck, but I mean, I'm not gonna be able to play around that, so I have to just go for it here. If they have it, sure, you just need to make them have it there, especially after my what's the name? The Snakeskin Veil Resolved. I think that's just how you have to play it. Now, it's still not game over, you know, because we're going to draw so many cards because of the Shapers, and here we see why. So they get rid of my threat. I think that's correct. They have to do that. Did you track how many cards I've drawn with the Shapers? Because it has been quite a lot. I think it has been, or maybe not that much. 2, but that's, I mean, that gave me the win, so... And here they play the Omnath, and I'm like, fine, I'm really just okay with whatever you're going to try and do. I feel like I can kill you with the Inkmoth Nexus. So what I find here is Pendelhaven. That's perfect. I'm going to use Pendelhaven first, then Scale Up. I probably should have used Scale Up first and then Pendelhaven, if I'm being honest. However, it's pretty irrelevant because they only have 1 land anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered all that much. And we win the game. I think it was very good here because we played the Spell Pierce on their first turn here in game 2 when they played Ren and 6. That was a really good analysis and just shows you what you have to do or how you have to be very knowing about the matchup and what you can expect from the opponent to play around that the most efficient way. And as I said, you know, Shaper Sanctuary is busted right now. Every single deck plays removal spells, so you should play that. Cool. So that was a 2-0 right there. Let's go to the next game. Next round. For round 2, I think I'm on the draw right here. Lose the die roll as I always do. So look at this hand, pretty damn good. It has pretty much everything you want. It has a threat, it has Spell Pierce to protect like a turn to Ren and 6, if you can. And then you have the Inkmoth Nexus in case they have something for Elf. You have Distortion Strike if they have a blocker, and we draw Scale Up too. So I'm pretty damn happy. Again, what I do here is I do not play my threat turn 1 because I want to untap with Glistener Elf, so I don't play it. Now we have Abundant Growth. I could Spell Pierce Abundant Growth, but I don't think that's what I want to be doing. I'm already smelling a Ren and 6 here, or basically a deck that plays Ren and 6. That's how I felt. Or at least some kind of a style like that. Triomes, you know, that's a signal to me, especially when you combine it with the Forest. And there we go, Ren and 6. Maybe I should note, by the way, I just talked through. I didn't talk through this my decision, but you should know that last turn I actually played the Forest to play Elf, and then I decided not to play Inkmoth Nexus here or last turn because I wanted to have access to green and green-blue, right? So this is just because I know that if they untap, I'm able to kill them because I have Scale Up and Vine, so I can kill them next turn, and we'll set it up excellently for the next turn, as you will see. They played a Strand, so now I'm like, if you have removal spell, you're going to have to use it now. I'm going to kill you. And if they do that, I still have Nexus left, so I'd be okay with that. They do have the Nexus, sorry, they do have the ending, so I'm like, yep, sure. I find the Beseju, that's not perfect or anything. And this is me just scanning the waters, right? Again, I think a lot of players here would have actually just started out with playing the Scale Up or the Snakeskin, or probably the Scale Up and just do nothing. But this is me testing the waters. I was not expecting Endurance. What I was expecting is end of turn removal spells, and I wanted to have access to both Snakeskin and Vines. I could have also used Distortion Strike to get around this Endurance, but I mean, you can't play around everything, and I think this is a good play because you get to see what they have in their hand, and I can respond to a lot. So I use just Vines here, and I'm okay with this trade. I really am. We have the Risen Reef, and then I'm like, okay, so it's going to be 4-color elementals, shields down. I've been drawing a lot of lands here, but that's okay. Distortion Strike is going to end me up winning the game. That's at least what I was expecting at this point. So I decide here to not use Snakeskin Veil right now, because again, I'm afraid of removal spell. End of turn, you want to play around Solitude, etc. And I know that if I really have to go for it next turn, what I can do is I can still use the Snakeskin Veil, because with the Distortion Strike coming back, Inkmoth Nexus will become a 2-1, and I think at this point, like, I'm really hoping to draw a protection spell or just another pump spell so I can be sure. But I think I would just have to go for it whenever, well, pretty much regardless of what they do. I don't know the lands, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lands. A bit land heavy, but as I said, I don't think that waiting here is going to end me up winning the game, so I have to know when to go for it, especially with the Risen Reefs. They will have so many card draw, or they will find the cards that they need, that I felt like I needed to go for it here, especially with them having just 2 mana. This was the perfect timing for that. So sideboarding here, pretty straightforward. Shapers, it's excellent in the matchup, so you want to play it. As I said, Shapers, it's such a good card that I've been playing it in the main board, so you should play it as well, at least 2 to 3 in the sideboard if you ask me, but you can play more. So of course, I'm on the draw. Let's see the opening hand. Opening hand here is perfect, except it didn't have a land, so I had to mulligan that one away. This hand is, it just shows you the power level of nobles, right? If I have to choose, I'm going to get rid of ignoble, because nobles are better. But this hand's okay, not excellent, but then we draw the Shapers. I really love Shaper Sanctuary. I'm just going to throw it down anyway, because, I mean, Shaper Sanctuary, if they use ending on that one, I'm okay with that. And then they play Chalice of the Void. Not going to lie, I was not expecting Chalice of the Void. And I have another one. So I think they just kept the hand based on Chalice. And I'm like, well, damn, I wish I would have played Noble turn 1, because then this might have been very awkward for my opponent. Just attack 5 times and win. Because they are not doing anything else. But spoiler alert, this is going to be a pretty boring game. So now that I've seen Chalice from the opponent's deck, you immediately see just how powerful that card is against us, right? It just destroys our entire game plan. I do have Besiju. I didn't bring in Force of Figures here. I did bring it in for the third game, and I just concede. This game is over. Chalice, dead. So, sideboarding for game number 3. As I said before, what you want to do is, if you've seen your opponent play Chalice, you bring in Force of Figure. It really is that easy. You saw the Force of Vigor in my opening hand there when I had 7, but it was pretty much nothing else. This hand's fine. It has the threat, it has Shapers to draw me some cards, it has Scale Up, so I'm pretty happy here. Just get rid of the land. You only need 1 land, usually, or this is green. You're going to draw lands with the Shapers. So, of course, I'm going to start with Shapers. Very afraid of them having Prismatic Ending, but if they don't, I'm very happy. Force of Vigor here. Excellent draw. You pretty much always want to have one. And, well, look who we have here. Mr. Bad Boy himself. Drawing Might, that's pretty funny, because I would have been able to kill them if they had anything else. But, yeah, I'm fine with this Chalice right now, especially if they're going to rely on Risen Reef. But I'm just going to decide to kill that one straight away, because if I can get in some damage when they are out tapped, that's perfect. I decided to just slam it with Elf, because I'm only going to be able to kill them with Elf ever again if I draw the Distortion Strike. I want to prevent them from gaining card advantage. It's now 0 cards to 6, so you can see that I just want to win as quickly as possible, right? I want them to die with their card in their hand. So I'm down to 0 cards, but I can just kill them next turn by attacking. So the only thing that they can do is kill my creatures, and then I'm going to catch up with Shaper's Sanctuary, so I'm okay with that trade. And if they don't have anything, I just kill them. As we saw last time, very often your opponents just rely on Chalice to win the game, and it's possible my opponent has done just that. Another thing to note is they didn't play Endurance, or they don't have double green, so they can't play a potential Endurance in the hand, which is lovely. That's what I wanted to see. Draw land here, that's not pretty good, but it's not bad either, because if I just attack here with these two and they remove one of my neck side, and I draw a protection spell, I win because of that. So I'm just let's see what happens. Just slam in, do nothing. A Dharmish Call here. And here we have the Solitude. Fingers crossed to draw a protection spell from the Shapers, which unfortunately we draw the Spell Pierce. Really good card, but that's no, it doesn't hit creatures. So but I'm feeling fairly safe from anything else, because if they have another removal spell for this Inkmoth Nexus, well, I'm just gonna kill them, right? So I'm okay with whatever happens here. So if I remember correctly, my opponent took some time to think, or maybe just Magic Line is lagging a bit. Anyway, I've dealt damage, put him to 9. I just need to attack next turn and we are good. Here, I'm really hoping for them to play Teferi, because Teferi is really good against us, and if they have like another Elemental, then slamming the Teferi on their end could just be game winning for them. But if I have Spell Pierce to stop that from happening, that would be excellent. And guess what happens? They play Teferi, I Spell Pierce, and they just concede. So lovely, lovely. We called out the shots perfectly here in this game again, especially with the Renin 6. The Spell Pierces bringing the Force of Vigors for the Chalice. Good stuff. Let's go to the next round. So this is a very cool one. I'm going to play against Murktide. Of course, I don't know that before I started, but I just went 2-0, and I think, well, like, I know that Murktide's a matchup that a lot of people are afraid of, so I think it's cool that we just... I actually, if I'm being honest, I never felt like I was not going to win, which is crazy to say. So this is why I'm playing the Nobles. This is excellent. Also, pro tip, you always want to start with Ignoble, because that's the worst one. So if they remove the Ignoble, you're actually happy. So I just want them to use the removal spells that they have on the ignoble. That's fine. They've already used one, and now what I can do is, sure, man, you have your Ragavan. I have so many nobles that if they destroy Elf here, I'm actually okay with that. I don't think there's any single card in my deck that I care about that they can take. So Ragavan is really, especially against blue-green specifically, it's so bad. You really don't care what they take from you. There's not a lot that you can have. So here they counter spell. I'm going to draw a card first because what I want to do here is to draw a card. I was hoping for to get some more gas. They spell pierce my scale up. Perfect, because I can spell pierce their spell pierce. And even if they have another thing left, I'd be fine with that. They have used all of their cards, and as I said before, they can't really use our deck with the Ragavan. And this exchange here, the counter spell, the spell pierce, is what made us win, I believe, because I'm just going to slam here with Inkmoth Nexus, and they need to respond now. Easy, right? As I said, I never felt threatened. That's usually, if they had Murktide, that's the only thing I would have been afraid of. But even then, I think I could still have navigated through that. And that's because of the nobles, right? If I had used, imagine if I had Murktide, they would have been 0 cards in hand. I would have been able to actually just kill the Murktide by slamming in. Inkmoth was a 3/3. Vines and Blossoming Defense would have made mine a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it would have been blocked to death. And I still would have been able to kill them next turn. So, as I said, Nobles, pretty damn good card. It's a pump spell. Sure, it only gives you +1/+1, but the thing is, it protects your creatures and deals 2 more damage. It's nuts, dude. For the next one, let's look at the opening hand. Pretty good hand. Probably would have wanted 1 more land in here, but I guess I can't complain. It's perfectly fine. You have 3 threats. This deck usually wants to prevent you from having your threats. So if you can navigate through that, that's excellent. Drawing the forest is nice because sometimes they play Blood Moon-ish effects against us. This is what we expected. They wanted to kill our creatures. I'm not going to drop Blood Agent here. This could be interesting for a lot of you. And I think a lot of people would have slammed down Blood Agent here, but I decided not to. Again, I can't stress this enough. You want to keep your creatures alive. So you want to not play into their game plan. And I think I played, in this very specific spot, I just played the Blood Agents. I was thinking for a while about maybe just playing the Noble and passing, but I assume that at this point of the game, even if they destroy the agents, so they bolt, right? I Vines back and then they bolt again. That's 2 cards away from their hand, and I still have my threat, and I still would have had lethal with Might Noble and Vines protection. So I'm like, yeah, sure, fine. This is also a perfect state of, remember what I said in the beginning, the pump spells will come if you're able to untap with your Infect creatures. Don't worry about it, you don't need to scale up, and this is just another proof. So, Murky, I don't care, I'm going to kill you through all of that. So we've now won through double Unholy Heat and a Fury. That's a hand where my opponent was like, there's no way how I can lose against Infect. I just play Noble here and pass through the turn. My opponent has 1 card left, so I'm like, I find it difficult to see how I'm going to lose this one. I'm at a healthy 14 life, and they have not lethal, so I'm like, yeah, sure, let's just kill you. The only thing what can happen here is that potentially they could have a counterspell. However, I have things covered because if they counterspell this one, what I can do next turn is, well, their hand will be empty, of course. And if they attack with the Murktide for lethal, I can animate the Nexus, block, and then I can Vines to protect it if they want to kill it next turn. Maybe that was a bit too fast. So imagine if I would have failed here, right? What would have happened is they would have attacked with Murktide, would have blocked with the Inkmoth Nexus. Even if they had drawn another removal spell, I could have Vines in response. I could have drawn 2 cards, we would have gotten there, and I could have blocked again with the other Nexus. So, as I said, I've never felt like I was not going to win this game, but you have to navigate it carefully, which is what we did in this game. So, yeah, pretty nice. Let's go to the next round. I'm on the play. I don't know what I'm up against, as always, but this is an interesting hand. Look at this. All the cards in my hand are pretty good, but main question, I've said this so many times in this league. Are you able to protect your Infect creature? Are you able to untap with it? If the answer is no, you just ship it. Unfortunately, this is not an excellent hand. However, in the dark, I don't want to go to Mulligan 5. So I decided to keep here. And if we draw a threat, I'm able to protect this one very, very well. We do find the elf. I do play the noble because I only have one protection spell anyway. So I figured that it's best to just slam it down and hope that they only play one removal spell next turn, which is what I'm hoping for. And here we have the Alpine Houndmaster. And I'm not going to lie, this is the first time I ever played against like white-red dogs in Modern. And they had Fury, which is scary because they just kill everything. So I was pretty happy with the Snake Skin. And I had Distortion Strike, so it's not game over by any means. If I draw one pump spell here, we should be good. So I play the Distortion Strike. I keep the other one. Because I want to make it seem like I have protection spells. I don't want my opponents to know what I have going on. And I figure that I can still play the Distortion Strike next time. And now if I play the Distortion Strike, it has 4-2, and next turn it will have 3-2, so it will deal exactly 10. So I think this was the best way to set it up. I was pretty happy with the Spell Pierce. However, they have a card that goes around Spell Pierce, so I just lose. That's unfortunate. Fury is very good when you're playing 8 nobles, I can tell you that. So for the next one, I mean, I've seen Fury, it's red-white, I was expecting Solitudes, so of course you're bringing in the Shaper's Sanctuaries, and there it is. So I have the mulligan to 5 here, yikes, my opponent kept 7, so I'm already feeling not very happy here with the way things are going, but I mean, I'm going to try. They bolt my threat, and I'm not feeling happy at all. Now, I do have Scale Up, and I have Blossoming Defense, so potentially I can just win out of nowhere. I want to keep my threats alive, so I could have attacked here. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to do that. I want them to out-tap. They have to do that at some point, because they are in the driving seat right now. And because they out-tap, that means it's time for me to go for it. Well, I shouldn't say go for it because I don't have lethal, but I want to pitch in as much damage as possible, because the only thing I'm afraid of right now is specifically Solitude. So I'm really hoping for them to Solitude the Inkmoth Nexus, which they don't do, which is weird. I imagine that you always want to do that if you can. So maybe they didn't have any Solitudes or just no removal spells in general, but I can imagine that you're going to keep hands like that. Now, they know that I'm playing very safe, so it's clear to me that they just want to present some board presence. And again, this to me screams that they have Solitude in hand, but that's probably the only removal spell that they have. That's how I analyzed it, at least. So I figured I'm going to scan the waters, and I think this was a really nice play. I'm going to scan the waters, Blossoming Defense, because I was expecting the Solitude. And the reason for this is that in response to me using the Blossoming Defense, they should have Solituded if they had it. And then what could have happened is I would have been able to Vines in response, and then I would have dealt 2 damage to them, putting them to 9. And then I just win next turn, because I had double Inkmoth Nexus. They both have flying, so I could have animated 2 of them, slammed in, and then we would have won from that spot. That's why I set it up like that. So even though we mulliganed to 5, we still won. Always lovely. So game 3, are you still watching? Well, happy to see that you're loving this content. Give a subscription, smash that button if you haven't done so. So we're on the draw right now. This hand's pretty damn good. We have the turn 1, best one, a noble. So we're gonna try, hopefully, which happens a lot against this deck. We're going to try and play our Blood Agent on the second turn with a Nexus and have Blossoming Defense up. I don't think that this deck has the option to really protect or really just kill nobles. I don't think they play that much removal spells. The Thalia is an interesting one. That seems to me like a sideboard card. Thalia, don't get me wrong, pretty good card. The thing is that my list specifically plays 8 nobles, so it doesn't really care all that much about the Thalia. So they would need to use removal spells right here, and if they do that, then I still have Nexus left. So the only thing I was afraid of is Fury. So yeah, I was pretty happy, and especially if I get to untap here, this ignoble really makes the Thalia really awkward. It's so nice, dude. I just love the noble builds. Drawing the scale up is perfect here because I can slam in with the scale up, and if they have removal spells, I can then just protect them. And there we go. I just protect my Blighted Agents because they had Solitude. And I think that's just game. Again, how many times have I said this now already? You just want to untap with your threat, play one pump spell, and usually that's good enough. This has happened 3 or 4 times now. And it's why I believe that this list is currently what you want to be doing if you're playing blue-green. If you're not playing Rotpriest, let me just add that. Okay, let's go to the last round. I was on a play, so that's nice. So the opening hand here, again, pretty damn good. The thing why you can play lesser lands when you're playing 8 nobles is that you will have enough mana. If you just have one single color-producing land, you're good to go. Because what I would expect to happen is if I had like a forest in here, play the forest, play the ignoble, they destroy the ignoble, fine. You play the nexus, you play the noble, you have more than enough mana. That's usually how it goes. But this hand is unkeepable. This hand is fine. Again, nobles, pretty damn good. So we just start off with this card right here, Chancellor of the Dross. That was the reader. I didn't know what that one was doing. So immediately it was clear that it was some kind of a life loss deck, which is actually pretty good because a life loss deck usually gains a life for itself. And I'm like, yeah, man. If you want to gain life and win that way against Infect, that's just not a thing. That's just not going to happen. I think about whether or not I should counter the spell with a Spell Pierce, but I figure that I'm not going to do that. I want to keep Spell Pierce when I really need to. And this is an interesting call again. So what I did is I Vinced first to see whether or not I had some kind of a free removal spell. I couldn't think of one, but then just scanning the waters. And you can see me tapping the way that potentially I still had the option to use Spell Pierce. So I think I tapped Ignoble and Pendelhaven first, and then see what happened, if I remember correctly. Anyway, it doesn't matter, we just kill them. Okay, so opening hand, pretty damn good. I have Nobles, I have Elf here, and here what I do is I play Ignoble. They have Nurturing Peatland, pretty good card, but it makes them lose life, which is nice. I fetch up a land, I play an Ignoble, I also play the Elf. I only have one protection spell, so I figure that let's just play it. And here it is. So something's wrong with the replay. I just watched it myself. What happened here is, because I remember how this game went, they actually tapped black, and what they did is they destroyed my Elf here. That one went to the graveyard. That's what happened. Then it was their turn. See, something's up with this Magic Online replay, so I'm just gonna show you what's still available. There we go. See, and then you saw the black mana tap there, right? So what happened is they wanted to destroy Elf with a spell. I then Vinced. And then they had, I don't remember which one, but they had a free spell that actually killed this Elf regardless. So I'm currently at a situation where Elf is dead. I no longer have Vines in my hand. This was my hand, and they were stuck on 2 lands for quite a while. I think that's what we're seeing right here. Okay, yeah, I remember. So now, I think if I recall correctly, they play Sign in Blood here. Let's see if that's correct. Yeah, Sign in Blood. So they are now down to 14. Now what I do here is at this point, I'm thinking for a while. So again, real board state here is that Elf's gone. I no longer have Vines, so you should know that my hand is now just 2 Scale Up, Might, and the land. And I think for a while, and I figure out that, you know what I'm going to do? If I scale up an Ignoble, and I might have Velcrosa an Ignoble, that's 10 right there. And I'm going to Stamina with Ignoble, that means I'm going to deal 12 damage to them, and they only have 2 life left. Now, if they want to tap Nurturing Peatland or Silent Clearing, they have to pay 1 life. Which means that I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to scale up, and might have Velcrosa, and I win the game. There we go. So again, something that was up with the Magic Online replay. So I used Scale Up, I used the Might, I slammed in, and then they, after that happened, they just conceded. And that's what you're going to see. I still think you can see the concession, but you're probably not going to see anything else. There we go. So there would be no other reason why you would concede here, right? Me just attacking with Ignoble, not attacking with the Glistener Elf, then conceding. It's clear that there's something very, very wrong with this replay. But I did, I do remember the game state because it was so funny, and that's what I discussed with you. Alright, so great here. 5-0 league. Let's go to the deck again and discuss my my feelings. Great build. I think it's really, really nice. Again, what you want to do is you want to keep your threats alive. You want to untap with your threats, which is why we play 8 nobles. It was very relevant a lot of the times. We saw us beating 2 Ren 6 decks. We won through Furies, we won through removal spells, we 2-0'd against Murktide. So I think it has a lot of gas. Kitchen Finks, I'm not sure about that one in the sideboard, if it's so worth it, but I'm leaving it there. Currently don't have an idea of a better option. You could play a Force of Vigor if you really want that, but I think we are well set up to deal with what we're trying to do. And I recommend trying this out, because I now have 2 5-0s on my channel with this list, and first try here gave me a 5-0, and in fact it was a 7-0 before I actually lost my first game with this list, so I'm fairly happy. That was it for this video, and I will see you soon for the next one. Bye!